Hey everyone, Dylan Ansell here and welcome to Dylan Ansell TV. Today on the show, I want to be opening up the discussion around mental health, but more directly, men's mental health. Now with 8 Australians dying every day as a result of suicide, 75% of those are men. Now this means that men really aren't getting the help necessarily or might not be dealing with their own mental health issues. I know from my own experiences, as men we usually try to suppress it or we try to ignore it, and this can mean that we never really get the help that we so desperately need. But that's what today is all about. Today I'm here at Raw Cali Chambers in Bibra Lake to work with Wpn Wear. Wpn Wear are hosting one of their weapon sessions, which is all about bringing men from different walks of life together to work out, but more importantly to open up about their own mental health. I'm going to be sitting down with co-founder Dan Jones and events manager Brendon Spadek to really dive deep about how men are being impacted by their mental health and how Wpn Wear are helping change the lives of men everywhere and really reinventing the way that we approach men's mental health. Let's do Well, I want to say thanks so much for joining me on Dylan Ansell TV today to open up about Wpn Wear. So now with Dan Jones and Brendon Spadek. Is that actually a nice name?
Pretty close, pretty close.
Spadek's fine? Yeah, okay, cool. I really want to kick things off, I suppose, telling the audience about Wpn Wear, how it came about for you, Dan, and Brendon, how did you become involved in the activewear brand?
Basically, the brand itself sort of came about after a trip I had to the States. I spent quite a bit of time over there, maybe 7 months or so, and when I returned from that trip, I got back into training and really wanted some new gear. Just realised there was nothing on the market that really took my eye, or was anything that I would be interested in wearing really. And I just thought it was ridiculous. The pricing is well.
Definitely.
That sparked my interest in sort of designing a range for myself really, and we had already started a streetwear brand prior to Wpn, and we were running that, so I already had manufacturers and everything, so whipped up a few designs and started wearing them, and I had a few guys that were interested in getting some. I thought they were pretty cool.
That was your background, hey? Is it design and stuff?
Yeah, that's right. Graphic design is really my background, and my old man is a tailor of 50 years or more, so he's always been into pattern making and fashion and stuff like that, so I've always had that kind of
that background.
Background. So did a few designs up, had some interest from the boys, and really thought maybe there's something in this, like brands like Lorna Jane and Lululemon were really taking off at that point, but I really didn't see anything specifically for males that had a bit of a community aspect as well. The big name brands like Nike and Adidas, but really none of those stood out to me as a community-based brand. And so I really wanted to bring that towards into the market as well, especially a men's only brand.
Yeah, I think that as well, because you've got all your Lululemon too, your Gymsharks both as well, but just having that men's brand, I suppose with that community focus, pretty much you're reinventing the game for us. You know what I mean? Like, you truly are, you know what I mean? There's not really a lot out there that has that community focus.
I felt like we were at the time, and to be honest, like a few brands have come and gone where they sort of started as a men's brand and they've either they're not around anymore, or they've evolved into doing women's wear as well, because it's a bigger market.
Financially into that field.
Beneficial. We picked a pretty tough niche. Men, they don't tend to shop as much as women. But it was beyond that. We really wanted to do this for the person.
100% online as well.
Yep. So that's what it was, and now it's sort of evolved into something more than just the clothing, which is where Brendon's come into the company and weapon sessions.
Things like that, and really expanding. So how did you become involved in Wpn Wear?
So I I quit my corporate sales career mid 2018. It was a big decision, but it was the best one. And moved to Bali for a few months, working on my own business, and then just coming back to Perth, I really set the intention of I wanted a part-time role to come into, as long as my own business. But I really only wanted to partner with a brand that I truly believed in. I'd worked with companies before that weren't in alignment with my values, so it was like, I'm not going to go and just do something for money. I really have to be, passionate about what the movement's about, and the brand really has to be in alignment with my values. And thankfully came across Wpn on an ad, and they were looking for an ambassador program manager, and it's kind of like end of 2018. It's just evolved from there, like my role, like in terms of from starting ambassadors and then now doing events and some sales.
So, I think that's it. As its core, it has that value of mental health, raising awareness about it. It's more than just a brand. Like, you're not just going to work and going, I just work for this active brand label. You know what I mean? It's much more than that. So I suppose the second question that I want to ask is, how important do you guys think having that community awareness has on, I suppose, advertising your business, but also importance in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge in the sense of really bringing in new customers that are dedicated and love the brand, that have a passion for the brand, that are diehard for the brand. That's a huge aspect, especially because what we're trying to achieve, I think, people can see through if it's not genuine. Because we're super genuine in what we're trying to achieve in that space of mental health and well-being for men, you get those diehard fans. They're just like, I love this. This is so needed, and I love feeling like this is a community that I'm a part of.
Yeah, I mean, even for myself, we started 6 months ago, Wpn Wear. I heard you guys on the podcast. My partner sent it through. That's it. That was me done. I was Wpn Wear.
And we get that story is so common, and that's what we love, and that's the reason why we've been building on this, and that's what we wanted to achieve at the start. So, in a sense, in a business sense, it's a fantastic model because people are now looking for more than just a brand. People are more conscious about what they're buying, who they're buying from, and they want to feel good about what they're buying. And in 2020, I think it's more apparent than ever. I mean, like you can see just from the response we're getting from the sessions that we've been doing this year, it's just been super strong, and I think people, you can hear it that everyone's sort of going through something pretty tough.
Definitely.
It's definitely been something that I feel is needed this year, but it's probably been something that's been building up
for a long time. And that's I think what was great about today, when we're coming together and different men chatting about the struggles that they're going through. I don't really think we've had an outlet like that. To be honest, there's you go see someone, you go see a therapist, but in this sort of format, I don't think men have really had that outlet. So that's what's excellent about it. It's not just, as we've chatted about, it's not just about buy activewear, you know what I mean? And wear it, it's come along to the sessions, be a part of the movement. So.
And I think there's two consumers. There's the one consumer who kind of just is very price driven and just wants to buy it for the cheapest price, and then there's the other consumer, like Dan spoke about, who they want this brand to have a bigger purpose behind it and be having a positive impact in the world in some space that aligns with their values. So I think especially that younger generation, that's where they're moving. They want to kind of partner and align with brands like that. So I think that's really important. And I think with our brand as well is we're really taking the next step from awareness. So we've been talking about mental health awareness for a long time, but it's what's the next part of the conversation moving forward. And as you just saw today in the men's circle, it's about actually taking action steps and what can we do to prevent guys from getting into that space of depression or suicidal thoughts, because that's where the real change comes, from that preventative space.
It's not just getting there and going, how do we deal with it? Before. I think that's excellent. Going on that point, can I ask, when you were opening up Wpn Wear, when you were becoming part of Wpn Wear, I suppose what I want to ask is, society, and I think there's a lot of stigmas out there, but society is quite negative sometimes. You know, and as men, I think we cop it a lot, but we don't talk about it. And I think the effects that has, like negative people or naysayers, I suppose, especially for you, Dan, you know, opening up a business, being an entrepreneur, and then for you, Brendon, leaving a company and going more aligned with a company that's more like core values, that's a huge step. So how did you get over, I suppose, any anxiety that was involved, with any naysayers or negativity?
To be honest, I don't think we had a lot.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Nice.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
I mean, we've grown like really sort of grassroots pace.
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
So, you know, you do get some, you know, the naysayers on social media and stuff like that. You know, it's $70 for a t-shirt, but these are really not our customer demographic. They're not the right people for us, and that's fine. And part of the reason why they say these things is because they don't really know, they don't know anything about the product or even what we're about. They just see an ad. So that's surface level, but really, I mean, from the start, I've always surrounded myself with people that are honest but positive. You know, so you know, whether it be some positive feedback or criticism to sort of help us grow.
To create an environment for yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. You know, we're always surrounding ourselves with a group of doers. Like, okay, we see the obstacle or the challenge. Okay, how are we going to overcome this and sort of
move forward?
So, yeah, it hasn't been really a tough decision. And it's always been something that we've sort of thought, no, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to do it and surround ourselves with the right people.
I think that's the biggest thing for the audience. If you want to do something, just go ahead and do it. Just don't worry about anyone else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not everyone, like, the thing is as well, is like, even when I left my corporate career, you know, like, not everyone understood, but not everyone's going to understand the journey, and that's fine. Like, they're not necessarily the people that need to be in your environment, like, they're going to be negative towards that. So I was similar. I already had a really great environment around me, which probably helped, and a lot of people who already had been doing things that they really wanted to do. So I just saw it was possible. I knew it was a reality, which made it a lot easier. So yeah, it wasn't as much of a challenge. I guess when I first did it, you always have those small thoughts if am I doing the right thing, but it's generally it's like what a question I always ask myself is, if I took the money away, would I still be doing this?
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, and it was a straight no. So I knew it was time to move, and it got to a point where it was just too far out of alignment for my values that I had to move.
I think that's a really good question that a lot of people could ask themselves. Take away the money, take away the thing that's driving you, would you still do it?
What would you do?
You know, what would you do?
And that's what a good friend of mine has said several times. You know, when you're going through the daily struggles, and he's like, okay, so what would you love to do if there was no money involved? What would you do? And I'd be like, doing this. This is what I love. I love designing clothes. I love doing the men's weapon sessions and really building this community. That's what gets my fire going. So he's like, okay, so just keep doing that. Keep doing it. You know, like, I think for me, like you say, you know, what about the naysayers or the people that had doubts? I'm the biggest doubt, if anything. Like my circles around me are the ones that hold me up and say, no, you can do this, believe in what we're trying to achieve, more so than myself sometimes. So if anything, it would be me. That's sort of saying, you know, like, am I doing the right thing, or is this ever going to really get to the point that I'm super proud of, or where I expect it to be, because I have such high expectations.
I think a lot of people think that as well. I think we're all at worst, you know what I mean? Especially in our minds. And going on that, I wanted to chat about the fear of uncertainty, and why do you think it's so prevalent in today? You know what I mean? I think a lot of men I've been chatting to go, oh, I don't know what next year's going to hold, and I think you can get caught up in that. And I think being an entrepreneur and working in that sort of line of business, how did you, I suppose, if you had any, how did you deal with the fear of uncertainty in times of your life?
I think you just got to believe. You just got to have unwavering belief, faith that it'll work out, and just a positive mindset. Like, you can't go into it with a negative mindset.
Nah, exactly.
You're just going to manifest that. So, for myself, it's just having that belief and then following on that vision, and just holding tight that vision.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what, because there's always going to be challenges. See that vision and hold on to it and have a positive outlook towards it.
Yeah.
You just keep going that way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think just trusting in the journey, as cliche as it sounds, but then also like, you know, it's so often that we focus on the 5% that we can't control. Like you gotta just focus on the 95% that you can control, and especially with what's going on at the moment, it's like what can you control? You can control your own health, you can control your own mindset, and that's what's gonna we see the world as we are, you know. So I think that's the big thing, is just focusing on that. And you know, everyone's a bit different as well in terms of you know, their human basic needs of certainty and uncertainty. So you know, I guess the people who really need that certainty, they're probably the ones that are going to stay in that 9-to-5 job, you know, because they want that, I guess, that financial security that they think a job offers them. But yeah, I think if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be prepared to be uncertain, you know. So that's part of having the options of them being able to live the lifestyle you want. So
yeah, exactly, and it'll pay off, you know.
Yeah,
that's the thing as well. I think, you know, obviously Wpn Wear's big focus is on, you know, mental health, and I want to kind of go back to, you know, men's mental health, I should say. Do you find, what's the biggest thing, the reason why you reckon it's such a hush-hush subject with men? Is it embarrassment? Is it, you know, the fear of when they open up? Or what do you think that men really struggle to talk about it? I'll skip that question.
I honestly think it's something that's ingrained for us from a young age, you know. It's like we get taught, you know, it's like boys don't cry, don't show emotion, you're like harden up, man up, all that kind of stuff. So it's ingrained from a young age for us not to show emotion. So it stays there, and then it's so often to see, you know, guys will have a few beers and they'll start to open up, because it's almost like that alcohol gives them a way out, or excuse, I was drunk, man, you know. Yeah. So there's just a lot of stuff from that, and this is the thing with Are You Okay Days, everyone speaks about Are You Okay Day, which is great, but it's what about the other 364 days a week, you know? It's it's gradually starting to shift, but I think that's why things like what we're doing, and even other communities as well, is creating those community spaces where men can open up and share, you know, vulnerably.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think having that diverse range of men coming, you know, older, younger, it doesn't matter, everyone's welcome, come along.
And it's so interesting to see that everyone struggles. You know, you can see that around the group, it doesn't matter what age or what profession or where you are in life, that everyone has a similar struggle or has known a struggle similar. So you may think that I'm in this alone, but very often we find that guys are struggling with the same thing or have done, you know, and they can relate, and that is a small community in itself that you can feel like, okay, you know, I'm with these guys, they're with me, like I'm not alone in this, and that's great, really great to see that, you know, in each session. It's just, it's amazing how the bond is made, and it's a really positive thing.
Yeah, and I think you don't need to have a psychology degree to come along and say, oh, there's patterns here. And I think actually when you see those patterns, you feel so much more comfortable about opening up. You know what I mean? Because as you said, you know, many going through all the same struggles, doesn't matter what age group.
I know the first time I sat in a men's circle, I was like, shit. I was like, all these dudes are going through such similar stuff to me, but I'd never really sat in that space before and had those kind of conversations. So yeah, and I'm one of the biggest for it, and many of us are, being such self-internalizers and natural problem solvers. So we'll seek to fix it all inside and problem solve, and we won't go out, outsource anything until we know that we can't solve it ourselves.
Exactly. We're not going to seek help unless we go, I'm really stuck up against the wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I suppose that brings me to my next question I want to ask, and it's about around pressure and society's pressure on us. I mean, I know for myself being younger, there's such a pressure from social media. We live these fake lives. I mean, the people are posting about positive things that they're doing, but necessarily that's not their real life, you know what I mean? Do you think there's this evolving pressure in society around you've got to be successful young? Because I know for myself, when I'm 21, people go, why haven't you got your life figured out? You know, what are you doing? What's your dream? You know, and I think as a man, it's such a large amount of pressure, you know what I mean?
I think first off, and it's up to the individual to actually determine what is success for you. Because I know I've done it myself, because I'm like, oh, I'm not successful, and I look at all my areas of my life, I'm like, okay, I'm successful here, okay, so like financially, I'm not where I want to be success-wise. So I feel like I'm not successful because there's only one area of my life that I'm not hitting what all these other areas are. And I think especially as men, it's the whole breadwinner role that's being brought up is like to be that financial stability and success. So, but that's I think the key is like what is success to you first. Otherwise, you're just going to play off what society is, and it's always about getting more, having more, and you never actually really be fulfilled.
You're just going to get to that level and go, I'm relaxed now.
Social media definitely plays into that and has done a lot worse. I feel in the later years, you know, flicking through Instagram or just looking at, you know, the perceived lives of successful people. You know, you can get caught up in this little bubble that is not actually realistic life. And that comparison model, which is not great.
Which is all the highlight reel as well. Remember,
It's
like
all
social
highlight,
media is the
exactly.
highlight reel. So,
And exactly, you're never really going to post anything negative, you know what I mean? Or something that's going bad in your life. And I think, as you said, it's a highlight reel.
But I believe it. You know, it's also a big part of, you know, where you go in the direction is the family and the friends and the circles that are around you. You know, if you do have pressure from your parents or your family to have a certain career or something like that, or your friends are all in this space and you feel like, you know, I've got to follow these trends or I've got to make this amount of money. And,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, the whole breadwinner thing being a male. You know, there's all these external pressures that you may face, but really does it, you know, does it serve you as a human, you know, in this life, you know, to really be doing those kind of things.
And if it's affecting your mental health, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's something as well that's coming into play a bit more. It's affecting your mental health. It's probably something quite serious you need to look at, you know what I mean? I like how that's becoming more prevalent and more important because everyone used to just focus on, you know, physical health. I think that mental health is just massively important. And I think, I suppose the last question I want to ask you, I mean, COVID was something that we all lived through. You know, everyone was affected by it in any different way. I suppose I wanted to say, do you think there's been a rise in anxiety as a result of COVID? Have you seen it? And how did you guys go being in business when COVID first hit? Because I recently listened to the C Word podcast that you guys are both on. Amazing. And I love the way that you guys worded your approach from Wpn Wear. And, you know, it wasn't just a money spin, you know. Shit, you know, COVID's happened, we need to get money. We need to spin out all these emails. You really took a mental health approach to it. So do you guys want to explain a bit more? Or?
So we as a group decided to sort of take a step back from you know, promoting product and trying to really, you know, make sales while we could. Before it all potentially went to shit. Which luckily enough never did. It sort of went the other way. But we sort of collectively as a group sat down and decided, okay, how are we going to approach this moving forward? And really, I think we all just decided this is a perfect opportunity to show what our value proposition is. And that is to help raise awareness and help people with mental health, whether it's anxiety or depression or whatever it may be, and really give back now. This is the opportunity to give back and really help those who are struggling in this moment. So we increased our you know, advertising on, or you know, our content around mental health and tips and tricks to really help, and moved to online weapon sessions where we can help guys continually, you know, when there were lockdowns, still run these sessions online.
Because you did an international session as well, I heard about.
When I was in Bali,
Awesome.
Oh yeah, the Bali session. So we were, you know, but you know, during COVID, we were lucky enough to have trainers all over the world that were able to run the sessions and then run the men's circles. And we had guys from all over the world, you know, jumping in on the session. USA, Canada, New Zealand. It was fantastic, and that's something we want to grow on now that we've done it. So,
and reach those people.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I noticed in COVID is I didn't receive one sale from you guys. I received no emails about sales, and I was just like, these guys are really, really on their brain, you know what I mean? in that core value of men's mental health. And all the stories were about the same, you know, and I think that's excellent.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really good part for us as well. We really understood that, you know, the clothing is the vehicle to facilitate the mission and purpose. So props to Darren and Dan, obviously, like, you know, to really, in those challenging times, to really focus on the mission and purpose. And I think, like, I had a mentor say to me, you know, like, what brands doing that to, right now in this period, they're going to be known for that for the next 2 to 3 years. So, it's been a really positive space for us, and there's been things that really come out of, like, the online open sessions and things like that.
I mean, even a perfect example of how we were able to come together as a community and help one another is we had a session, online working session during COVID, and one of the guys, opened up about just the medication that he had to take, and the fact that during COVID the price of the medication tripled or quadrupled. It was ridiculous, and he was struggling to even afford to pay for that.
Yeah,
that's the medication he needed.
Yeah.
So the group that were in on that session all decided to chip in and donate some money for him to be able to afford a few months worth of
medication. Wow. So that's what it's all about, eh? And you're hearing stories about like that, it's like, Jesus, you know, so much more than just an apparel brand.
Yeah.
And these are guys that have never met. Like from this guy was based in the States, and a bunch of the other guys have never met him, except for these working sessions where you do form that bond, and then you do feel like, oh, this is a brother, I've got to help him out. And you feel like this is really making a difference in this guy's life. It's fantastic.
It's more than just that surface level friends that you're making, as we chatted about today, how you're going, we'll do the session and that's it. You really have those friends continuing on in the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I think that's what's so important about these working sessions. It's amazing, coming out of it.
Yeah.
That's just incredible.
That's that community, we're really wanting to build those more than surface level stuff.
Yeah. Because creating deep conversation, like, no doubt there's men that sit in that men's circle who've said stuff that they probably never said to best mates of like 20 years because maybe they haven't felt comfortable or whatever. So
that's it.
It's just creating that deeper bonding conversation.
I think even that as well with your friends, sometimes you almost feel embarrassed because I think we all like to think, such and such is doing really well. I think even with your friends, like I opened up to a friend recently who's been my best mate for 4 years, and he was just couldn't believe that was happening because he's like, you're the most positive guy I know in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he just couldn't believe it. But I think opening up, then he was able to open up. You know what I mean? And that's just amazing as well. Because even we do it to our friends. I think coming here, as you said, everyone's opening up on different levels. And it's excellent. All right, thanks so much for sitting down with me today, guys. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to become a part of the Wpn Wear movement, head over to the Instagram at Wpn Wear. And if you'd like to buy your own apparel, become a part of the team, then head over to wpn.com. You'll find out the links in the YouTube channel below. Thanks again, guys. Been on Digital Ansel TV. Cheers.
Thanks.